my life was just out of control. I was, addicted to different types of drugs, narcotics. I've done opioids and all of these things, right? And so I was just out of control. I was a sex worker. I didn't really care if I lived or died. I was in and out of psych wards. It got to a point where I just snapped for better. And I just thought to myself, what can I do? So I did the work and I started asking the hard questions. It's actually a crazy story, but I remember it very vividly of the moment that I decided that I'm not here walking this earth to be taken advantage of anymore.
Aloha, and welcome to the Sick Bird Podcast, where we explore the bright side of life's darkest moments. Before we dive in, I want to give a quick trigger warning. In this episode, we'll be discussing topics related to sexual assault and sexual violence. If that's something that may be difficult for you to hear, please take care of yourself. Feel free to pause this and consider checking out one of our previous episodes. Today's guest, Lydia Richard, also known online as Wounds to Wealth. She's a businesswoman, personal development coach, and mother whose journey of reclaiming her story after trauma reminds us all that pain can be the birthplace of purpose. In this conversation, we talk about what it means to truly rebuild your life, not by erasing the past, but by using it as fuel to create something new and beautiful. From shifting your mindset to motherhood, Lydia's story is a testament to healing, self-worth, and finding success in more ways than one. If you enjoy this episode, please like it, share it with someone who could use a spark of inspiration, and subscribe so you don't miss a single story. It really helps us keep these conversations going and brings you more voices like Lydia's. It's amazing to connect with you, Lydia. I truly love the content that you're putting out there and your vulnerability and everything of what you stand for. And it's so nice that we got connected through a mutual friend, past guest on the show, Danny, and such a nice guy. So as soon as you kind of popped up and looking more into who you are and your story, it's just been really amazing to get to know you. But I'm really excited today to get to know you even more. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into it. This show really is about how does our trauma evolve us? How does it help us grow? How does it help us get to new levels? And so I think you've created this whole brand around it, Wounds to Wealth. And yeah, where does that start for you?
Yeah. So I created Wounds to Wealth. It's creeping up to 2 years, and I'm still in the process of actually launching my 6-week transformational program.
Wow.
And what it emphasizes is kind of turning similarly to your approach and your story, our pain into power. And a lot of times we get so wrapped up in our own mental anguish or trauma or negative self talk or whatever that stemmed from whatever occurrences we've experienced in our lives, whether it be at a young age or older. And we just kind of let that be the narrative of our life moving forward. We just kind of get stuck in it. We start seeing ourselves and the world in this jaded, tainted view. And so, what Wounds to Wealth is to create a space for people to not only work on their trauma, it's a trauma informed coaching, but it's also teaches self leadership. Then it dives into business strategy and financial literacy. So it empowers you after understanding your origin story, the wounds of which, helped create the person you are today, and how to utilize that into fuel and power, and then to be empowered to move in life in a way that you're not only feeling abundant in the inside, but also that can reflect on the outside. And that's kind of where the business strategy and financial literacy comes into play. And in short, Wounds to Wealth.
That's incredible. Man, put that on a poster on the tagline. That was so well done. You're ready for your TED Talk. That's incredible. But where does the trauma, I guess, start, right? Because that's so well said, and it's something that I truly believe for myself. And I know it's not always easy to do, but that trauma starts usually from a series of events, or for me, it was mainly one traumatic event. but would you mind kind of taking us back to where that pain maybe started for you?
Absolutely, yeah. So I guess like the big thing is to understand, what is trauma? And I think a lot of people think of trauma in situations like, oh, these big life altering events. And like that's happened to you and that's happened to so many of us. But also people diminish things that they've gone through that they feel like, oh, that wasn't that big, and not realizing how much impact it still has on their life today. So I wanted to make that clear because a lot of people, I think, move through life diminishing their own victory stories and struggles, right? And so for me personally, my first big traumatic event that kind of spiraled into this self-fulfilling prophecy of more trauma on top of trauma was around the age of 7, and I was sexually assaulted outside my in my backyard by my mother's boyfriend. And so that kind of, spiraled on. And it unfortunately wasn't the first time. That kind of proceeded for some time. And then she ended up, meeting another man who ended up a similar mental illness, I guess you could say, in his mind. And that continued up to the age of 14. So around from 7 to 14, um, while I was a minor, I was experiencing this sexual assault, and kind of reshaping how I view myself and the world at large,
Yeah.
which in doing that, transpired me into creating or having all of these bad habits and or decision making. And that just propelled me into more environments where that trauma, proceeded. And like I
Yeah.
said previously, became a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. I mean, it's
Yeah,
so
no
tough
worries.
and yeah, I can't imagine you were such a young child. I mean, I'm so sorry. But I think what I'm curious about is how does that then start to transform the self-image and the self-talk, right? Because I think, I can only understand it, I guess, from what happened to me, and my self-image after that was destroyed. It was like I don't have there was so much of I don't haves, right? It was so much of what I lost, and it was I felt like there wasn't much of me left to piece together that would be of value to anybody, let alone myself. And that is such a hard thing, I think, to understand and grip at like a young age. So, what was kind of some of those thoughts and those feelings that emerged from such a like horrific thing happening to you?
Yeah, it's like we a lot of things happen subconsciously, especially when we're so young. We try to make sense of things that are senseless, right? There
Hmm.
there is no meaning behind these actions, but we as human nature, and this is kind of some of the things we go over in my program, like what does it mean to be a human being, to be you and to be in this world and walk this life? And we create meaning to everything we need. That's where religion stems from and all of these things. So subconsciously in my mind at that young of age where I wasn't understanding what was happening and trying to make sense of it, a lot of what transpired was, unlovableness. And I'm dirty, I'm dirty. I have secrets, right? And you're only as sick as the secrets you keep, right? And so all of these things that just like continue to shape the way I engaged in relationships as I got older, in my career choices. I'm a retired sex worker of nearly a decade, my whole entire adult life, and I hold 100% accountability for the fact that I put myself in those traumatic events still. But it stems from me not doing the work soon enough to understand that I was just living out this story that, if this is all that I'm good for, then I might as well profit off of it. Or, this
Mm,
is all that I'm good for. So, screw it. Right. Or whatever. And so
right.
I can't say at 7 years old, I looked in the mirror and said, "You're unlovable now." But that just planted its seed, and it just continued to get watered and watered through the way that I was perceiving life around me being dangerous, and me being dirty, and holding secrets, and, not holding much self value after that. I say this all the time. I'm a very confident woman, but my self could use some work. And
I mean, that's very it's very self-aware. And I think that's like a beautiful but also kind to yourself, and you deserve that kindness. How do you go from having these horrible things happen to you, those seeds being planted, to I mean, and once those things get planted, they take roots. They really start controlling how you operate in life. I mean, it really do control how you approach everything, how you approach people, what happens when you're just by yourself, the thoughts that go in your head. But when I see you now and I see the content you're making, like you're so much so light and you're so free and you're so happy and I mean so well spoken. Like you could take my job for sure. I shouldn't even be. We should swap chairs right now. But like, you are amazing. You're doing incredibly well. Where where do we go from there to here? Like, how do you start putting the pieces together to find that confidence, to find the self worth? Because it's an amazing transformation.
yeah, that's the $1,000,000 question, right? That's where people get stuck. This is where people ruminate in their origin story or not even looking back. And for me, I'm reading this book and there's a quote that I mentioned to you, I think on our phone call that really like touches me, but it's if you don't change the direction of where you're going, you're going to end up going that way or you're going to end up getting there, something of which, right?
Right.
And so a similar thing kind of occurred where my life was just out of control. I was, addicted to different types of drugs, narcotics. I've done opioids and all of these things, right? And so I was just out of control. I was a sex worker. I didn't really care if I lived or died. I was in and out of psych wards. It got to a point where I just snapped for better, right? And I
Mm,
snapped and I just thought to myself that I didn't want to be this way anymore. And what can I do? What answers can I seek? What can I learn about myself, which
mm.
then helps me understand humanity at large, right? Because we're all just walking and trying our best and have no rule book to this crazy game, right? And how can I change the direction? What can I do? And so I did everything. I mean, I did ceremonial work with different, shaman like or coaches, or I, did the deeper spiritual work. I found my faith. I took executive steps, and it wasn't an overnight thing. I actually just this year, I'd say I've released a lot of the shame that I've carried, and shame was a lot of the biggest factor to my unwillingness to really like wake up the next day, right? It's like,
Mhm.
I don't care.
Yeah.
And in that realization that I don't want to be this sad girl anymore, or I don't want to be the self-destructive girl anymore. I want more for myself because, as much as I might have low self-worth, I still know the soul I have inside is full of love, and that girl deserves to be nourished and not just buried in my own self anguish, right? And
Yeah.
so I did the work and I started asking the hard questions, and some things just don't have answers to, and I had to accept that as well. You can look for answers and seek answers, and you might not even there might not be any answers, and that's the answer, right? That
Right,
is the
right.
answer.
It's fully just accepting that there isn't an explanation for this, and also you don't need that explanation where yeah, believe me, I think a lot about, the day of the accident, and it's like, could I have zigged when I zagged? Could we have done left or right or whatever, right? And you scrutinize every decision, but sometimes you're just like, but does it matter if I know? I mean, does it
No.
really make my life better if I know every little detail of this? And yeah, there's that point of acceptance. I think for you, what I'm wondering though, because it's this beautiful realization you have, but was it the snapping, if you will, that made you wake up to this? Was it something somebody said when you were in treatment? Was it something you read? Like, where did this idea of like, wait, I want more for myself. There's something beautiful in me, and I need to start finding that.
Yeah, it's actually a crazy story, but I remember it very vividly of the moment that I decided that I'm not here walking this earth to be taken advantage of anymore. And it was when I was barely 18 and I had moved 3,000 miles away from my hometown by myself with no planned $1,500 in my pocket from working since I was 14, from McDonald's, Home Depot to all these little gigs, right, or jobs. And I was in Los Angeles, a big city. I'm from Maine originally. And I got myself into a situation where I met a man who ended up threatening my life for months and sent me death threats and basically got me in he hacked my phone, my laptop, all the 9 yards. It was horrific. I didn't know anybody. I was petrified for my life. In Maine, I'm facing all these inner demons. And yes, there were some like people that contributed to that or transpired that, but out in Los Angeles, I'm facing like real life horror. And there was this moment I was walking. It was back in the day when I smoked cigarettes, and I was walking to get my pack of Stogs, and I was listening to Dr. Dre instead of my emo music,
Okay.
my pop punk music. It literally was like it was just the switch of energy. And I'm walking outside. I had just got T-boned, and I lost my car, my only safety, because I was running away from this guy. So I'm just petrified. And it came a moment that I literally said, and excuse my French, I'll blur out swear
No,
what I
go
said,
for
but
it. We're all fucking adults.
I was walking and I said, I didn't come here to be anybody's bitch. And so what happened was I snapped out of just being this sad girl that, what you don't change, you're choosing. And I continuously chose to let my past define me, let my trauma be my identity, and continuously propel me into these situations where I'm meeting a man that's threatening my life, you know what I mean, to like the worst degree.
Yeah,
I decided right there that I was going to theoretically boss up. And, like I've survived more than most. And I changed this whole narrative in my head of like, um,
wow. Thank you, Dr. Dre.
yeah, that's it. I swear. And like from then I like turned to hip hop music. I mean, music is so powerful. And
Yeah,
it just like now I love all types of music. And as I've gotten older and I've become a mother, I've become much more of a softie now. And I've kind of got out of this hard shell phase. But that hard shell that I created, instead of being this raw open sore, really helped me, and it helped me
right.
look for the answers and take charge of my life and self-leadership like I teach in my program. And that was really what the moment was for me, as
Wow.
silly and corny as it sounds.
No, I think that's amazing. I think it's incredible. And it was based out of, your value of understanding like who you wanted to be. I kind of want to touch on that shell you're talking about because I definitely have felt that too, right? And you do need it, I think, for the most part. It
Yeah.
it protects you from a lot of things that you don't have the tools or even the language for sometimes on how to shield you from the emotional damage, maybe it's even physical damage that then of course gets translated into emotional and psychological damage. But it's interesting about that shell, at least for me, where it's like that thing that protects you all of a sudden stops you from growing more than you need to, or providing you the access to the next phase of life you want to go in. So it's this interesting double-edged sword, but I do think about that a lot, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, you're absolutely hit it right, the nail on the head with it being a double-edged sword, right? It gets to a point where like, okay, we've adapted from this trauma. We've adapted into survival. We are survivors, right? But at what point do you lose the act of or the dance of living because you're just so focused on surviving? And with surviving, you've got the shield everywhere, and it just like every good thing that's trying to come in can't break through it. So
Right,
here you're thinking you're protecting yourself from everything, and then you realize you're still feeling empty. What is this? I'm not going through anything anymore. I'm in a better position in my life. I'm in a more stable, committed situation. Why do I still feel like I'm empty or broken? And then you have to look and reflect, okay, that served its purpose, but we must always evolve. And so you get yourself out of that position, great, but put the armor down,
right.
put
It's
the armor down.
Yeah, so well said. It's interesting because it's like a funnel, right? Like this is going to sound so weird. Maybe, maybe it's not like it, but in my head, because you're right, you got to put the shield down, but it also lets in, yes, it now allows you to receive all the good, but it also has to let in some of the pain and the trauma, some of the bad. And I think that it's scary and it's hard. I know for me when I was going through the recovery too, where it was like, you put the shield down now, but all the shame, the guilt, you have to then look it in the mirror. You feel it. You have to hold it now. And as you hold it, you look at it and you have to decide what you're going to do with it. And that for me was some of the hardest therapy I would say I had to do, where it was kind of looking at the things I wasn't proud of, whether it was just from my training with the accident or whether it was things I did throughout my life, where you have to look at, you're like, damn, I didn't do that super well. But without taking accountability, without having to let in some of the bad, you cannot fill yourself up. You cannot receive the good either. And yeah, it is this crazy thing. But I think once you allow yourself to sit with some of the pain, the shame, and the trauma and realize that it didn't completely destroy you. There's still a lot of you left in spite of what you went through and that trauma. Like there's good there now and there's strength
Yeah.
now. It's like you
Well,
get to put the shield down because the internal fortitude, the fort that's within
yeah,
you is stronger. Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, I just feel like so much of what you're saying I can relate to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then you also said accountability. I think a lot of times, like when we are traumatized or have gone through adversity and stuff, it's I'm guilty of this. It was super easy for me to point the finger at my original abuser at 7 years old and say he is the reason of that my life is this way.
Yeah.
He is to blame, right?
Mm.
And I can do that forever. Sure, if that's so easy for me, I mean, yeah, my life spiraled out of control because of that guy. You know what I mean?
Right, right. A lot of people would agree with you too.
But it's not the case, I mean, I have to hold accountability. What happened to me and to everyone that's had something happen, happened,
Mm.
right? But we don't need to give it so much of our energy, our thought, or our meaning or narratives, because then you're watering that seed some more. And if
Right.
you can't look at yourself and hold accountability of the things that are you've done bad, or what is bad or good, right? That's a concept that's open for discussion, right?
Right.
um,
Yeah.
but if I don't look at those things, then I'm going to continue to live my life for somebody else and not take accountability, let that person control every movement of my life, and be like, hey, I could have made some better decisions. This might have impacted the way I viewed things, but it's my job to look at how that impacted me. It's my job to look at these things that I might have could have done differently, maybe not better or worse, but differently, and what the outcome could have been, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a big thing, and I'm glad you said accountability, because that is a huge part to healing that people don't want to embody. They don't want to embody. They don't want to think that they have any role in this torment, when it's like, this is your life. You have all the roles. It is you're driving the ship, baby. You know what I mean? Things happen regardless, but
Yeah.
you got to steer.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Especially, I just can't imagine all of the pain and trauma that you had to suffer, but also hearing how much you just are taking ownership of your life. It's just inspiring, even for me. So much of things that happen in our life, I realize even for me too, it's like I could continue to be the victim. I can continue to be like, poor me, and oh, this sucks. And I hear it. I hear it all the time with people, and I hear it with people who, and again, you're right. I try really hard not to compare like your traumas compared to like my accident, but I think those death by a thousand paper cut traumas can add up and they can be super painful and really hard. But I also see people who seemingly have all of what you can ask for in life, right? They maybe have all the physical health and physical ability. They have loving people who care about them. They may have a career that is paying the bills and maybe then some, but still feel like, well, life destroyed me. Life was unfair to me, and and like every bad thing that's happened is because unfair things happen to me and this victim mentality. And don't get me wrong, like I want it to be said though, like there's people who are truly victims. I think you're one of them as well, but I also see you owning the choices and the power that you have, and you're stepping into it and saying like I could still do more with what I have access to. I hope that makes sense, but I guess I think your approach to it really, in a nutshell, is just so admirable, and I just appreciate, yeah, your approach to it. It's just really amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Are you a victim or are you a survivor, right? And
Right.
so you get to change that narrative again, right? And so you can walk around with your head down, and I'm not saying to not feel your feelings. It's okay to pat yourself in the back and maybe pity yourself a little bit. I mean, you've gone through some stuff.
Right.
You just have to feel it, hold yourself, feel sorry for yourself. You're fine. But then get up and say, "You know what? I'm not a victim anymore. I don't give them that. I don't give whoever did this to me that. I don't give that accident that. I'm a survivor. I'm gonna stand tall in that." And that's kind of just how things start to transform afterward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sorry if I use that term too. It's so funny because I've talked about this on other episodes too. I used to think it was so cheesy, the terminology of like victim and survivor, but I think there are power in words, and also I don't see myself as a victim. Like I survived something, I didn't choose it. I tried as hard as I could to avoid it, but what happened happened, and I don't see myself as a victim. Like when people say, "Oh, you're a burn victim," it does kind of sting a little bit. And it's like, I don't see myself that way. Like I'm a burn survivor. Like I made it through all the healing. I made it through all the mental anguish. It's like I'm continuing on. I get to, yeah, decide how I approach my life now. So I'm sorry if I said the wrong thing, but I
No,
completely agree
no.
with you because
You didn't say the wrong thing. That's that people use that word all the time, and you're right, you are not a victim. Because what I'm seeing right now today is a guy that's about to be a good father, right? Congratulations.
I hope so.
Okay, a
Thank
man
you.
that's overcome way more than one could ever imagine, okay? So, you're exactly right. People use the term victims all the time, and don't say sorry about using that because that's the modern world we're living in, but you embody a survivor, and so just I hope you know that,
Oh,
and again, congratulations on your baby. I know she's
thank
coming.
you. Thank you so much. I mean, it really is kind. I'm so nervous about the fatherhood of it all and what am I going to pass on? And I do think now that I have a different outlook on life, I think I just appreciate things more. I'm more grateful for things, but also like my career path looks so different than I could have imagined. Like I thought I'd be like a airline pilot and flying around the world and have this really stable job, and things just kind of, I take so many more opportunities now, and I don't always know if it's like the right thing per se, but I try to trust my gut.
Mhm.
When you were trying to re-engage with life and you decided I'm going to take control of my life, I'm going to create my own narrative, what did that start looking like for you? What was the next step after Dr. Dre inspires you?
Well, it was not an overnight thing, right? So like I said, almost this year, I've begun to really release a lot of the shame, but, um, it transpired with me making decisions out of confidence or, fake it till you make it type confidence, instead of fear. And with that, it led me to different opportunities and meeting different people. I started to pick the brains of everyone I met really, and really try to get a better understanding or closer to humanity at large instead of looking at humanity like something you should be afraid of. Um, and that all kind of transpired into me meeting other people that introduced other things to me, and the whole ceremonial thing of like seeking deeper answers and, recollecting my faith, um, and, having faith in the fact that I am divinely protected and that everything works out for me, even if it feels as it's not. And so that's an affirmation I say oftentimes, is that everything worked out for me. And I think what happens in psychology is we get confused in thinking that it's the action or the emotion and the feeling. So we think the feeling that creates the thoughts, and then behavior follows suit. Well, understanding psychology and understanding the things that I coach in the program, we have to really, understand that it is our thought that creates our feeling, that then creates our behaviors and actions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so
Love it.
I had to from there, I just started to realize that it is my thoughts, that I'm fueling my thoughts, that are creating my feelings, that are creating all these outcomes. And so that was kind of the progression of getting into the place of where I am now, where you see me as this bubbly, lighthearted, happy, um, energized girl, which I always have been, but when I was little, it was stripped away from me, right? I'm reenacting my inner child that I didn't get to be. I'm being the childlike, easy playfulness that I didn't get the opportunity to do, right? Because I was fighting for my life in my mind, right? And when I began to understand that it's all about the thought first, that's what really made the progress. So self affirmations, asking the questions, having the thoughts change because your thoughts get real negative, like you were saying after the incident, you're
Mhm.
thinking you're worthless, or you're thinking you don't hold any more, all of your values stripped away,
Right.
right? and
Right.
and those are just thoughts. That's not real. Nobody came to you and said you're worthless
Right.
or you're invaluable. That's just your own head. Your own head is not you, right? It's all this programming and all these things. It's not you. You have to take yourself out of your head. Your mind, your brain is the most complex organ ever, and you will never understand it,
I know.
right? And so
Yeah.
I mean, and we look at psychiatrists. I mean, and they're the only doctor. I'm going on a tangent here, but they're the only doctor that gives you all these meds and doesn't even look at the organ it's prescribing.
True. Yeah.
It's wild. And so we
It is
wonder why
wild.
we have this mental health epidemic or whatever, or why we have all these issues, why there's so many unhappy people. Like you said, somebody who's has theoretically everything we could dream of: wealth, love, family, security, whatever, and they still feel victimized. And it's a mental health issue, and it really needs to be addressed in the way of how our inner dialogue engages with us and how it bleeds into our everyday life. And so that's kind of from A to Z in short of like what steps I really started to take and understand in psychology and in myself and in the world at large that got me to this place of being able to experience my childlike whimsy I never got to.
Yeah. That is an incredible realization. And it's something that I feel like I talk a lot about. I talk a lot about like challenging your thoughts because those negative thoughts they come in and you're so right. I love the fact that you said you don't have to accept them. That doesn't mean they're real just because you had the thought. And I preach this all the time. But it's the hardest thing to do when you've got to program yourself, right? Or your brain is so powerful, it can convince you that something is true, even if it's not. You start finding evidence of why it's true and all those things.
Yeah.
How how did you start adapting this, right? Like, where did you learn this? Like, did you read a book? Did somebody start saying like, you don't have to like listen to every thought because it's a powerful, powerful thing that you're tapping into. It's so hard to do, but it's even harder to do for yourself. And also, like, if you don't have somebody just like preaching it to you, it's tricky. Where did you learn this?
Well, a few different things. I have read some phenomenal books. One called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I've also read The Alchemist. I forget, by Pablo something, I believe.
Quello. Yeah. One of my
Yeah,
favorites.
beautiful book, right? And so I also, there is a program called the Landmark Forum that has been incredibly transformational in my life as well, which
Mm.
really helped me separate what happened with kind of, the story we create, and us being meaning making machines is what they quote unquote say. So I have to credit them for that, for giving me a lot more insight into this world of self development. And then also just like, I sound a little like crazy maybe saying this, but like spiritual downloads, man. I mean, just speaking with source, prayer, like asking for signs, asking for guidance. And that's needless to say, although like I have this immense awareness so much that it can be a little like whew, you're like
Yeah.
watching yourself do all the things you're not supposed to do or behave like, but you like almost can't reel it in, but it's just like a disaster, right, coming in. But
Right.
I still have moments like I just got in this committed relationship for the first time since leaving my abusive baby's daddy. So it's been about 3 years since I've like felt love and it's been the first time ever in my life that I felt like a healthy, secure attachment style or whatever. And I'm catching myself. I have all this awareness, but my head's flooding my thoughts. My head tells me I have to ask him all the time, are you sure? Are you sure you want to be with me? Are
Yeah.
you sure? Um, are you sure? It's like, it's literally
Yeah.
like it's tormenting my mind. And I know that it's not real because I have this other side of my consciousness that's like, Lydia, stop saying you don't have anything to offer. You've got the world to offer. You've got all this love to offer. You've got this insight, this authenticity to offer the world. But then this little thing in my head is like, it's that little girl still that's still recovering from these thoughts of I'm unlovable, I'm dirty, I'm broken, I've got secrets, right?
Mhm.
Are you sure you want to be with somebody like me? Like I'm like a mess?
Right.
And so it's needing to say that, you know, even though I'm walking this path that I coach others on, it is not foolproof. We can't take the human out of us,
Yeah.
unfortunately, right? And so the key essential part to this journey of transformation, of healing, is awareness and accountability so that you can then see what you're doing. And so now in this relationship, we just had a little hiccup because I was spiraling and I was witnessing me spiraling, but I was like holding on to the spiral, like, because that's what's familiar to me. And that's what felt safe because I know how to adapt in chaos. I know how to survive in chaos. So if it's not chaotic, I think something's wrong, right? And that's again this wiring in my head that, oh God, he's pulling away from me just because he didn't send me beautiful. He called me by my name, right? And
Mhm.
all these thoughts keep flooding in again. And I now have that awareness. So now it may not be a cure all. I might not be cured, right? I'm still human. You can't cure the human from me.
Right.
But I can have open communication and I could tell him, hey, babe, this is happening in my mind and I want to share myself with you and I want to share my life with you. And with that means I want to share the things that are coming up so I'm not ruminating on it and making assumptions and catastrophizing. And that's how progress is made in life.
Yeah, 100%, right? We've talked about it several times, but it's like those thoughts are naturally occurring. And I think being able to, one, know what they are, and then be able to verbalize it to someone does help dissipate some of the, unexpected problems that come up because you're like, I just feel like you don't love me. Isn't the same as right now I feel like I don't deserve love. And it's something that I've felt for a long time. If I think about it logically, it sounds silly to say out loud. I know I do deserve love, but if I'm being weird, this is why. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
incredible, I think, the difference between those two.
Yeah.
So it's
It's
amazing.
beautiful.
I think you're so right about everything that you also said about you deserving love, about being incredible, about being honest. I get that now. I get it from your content, but I'm just getting that in the conversation with you. So thank you so much for sharing all that because I can relate to it so much. One thing I do want to touch on that you've talked about a few times, but we haven't dove into it yet, is this idea of like faith. I'm curious what that looks like for you. How does it show up? How do you implement it into your life? Yeah, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I did grow up in a Spanish household, and so us Spaniards tend to be very Catholic, right? So I was
Mhm.
baptized. I had my first communion.
Wow, crazy. I
I
now know that's the Spanish flag behind you. So that's yeah. There you go. I learned something.
represent. No, I'm kidding. But anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I grew up in a Catholic home. I do not identify as Catholic. I don't identify as Christian. I don't identify as religious. I am spiritual. I am not a fish in a tank bowl. I am a fish in an ocean. And what I mean by that is that my personal, I don't have the answers. I didn't die and talk to God,
Right.
although there has been times I think I'm talking to God, but regardless, right?
Yeah.
People that's viewing are gonna think you're talking to a nutcase. No, I'm
No,
kidding. But
no,
anyways,
no, no. I've put it out there about my like coming to the white light moment. And what I thought when I was like, I'm dying, I'm dead. I'm begging to God at this moment to like save me. And I didn't hear God. I heard me. And some people are like, well, that was God speaking through you. And maybe it was. I never will shoot down anybody else's faith because I don't know what's on the other side either. But it did change a lot about how I look at faith and religion and spirituality. So I get that as well.
yeah, okay. So yeah, so it's like I see spirituality and I see religions as, like, for instance, here's my daughter's toy. Every religion looking in at this one source,
Hmm.
and we just put a different title on it. Allah, Jesus Christ, God,
Hmm.
Muhammad, or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know all the biblical things, so don't come at me. But not you, but
Right.
everyone else. But
I would have helped you, but I
I
was like, I don't know anything else. I know, like, yeah,
I'm
I grew
like
up in a
pulling it
Christian
out of my
household. That's about all I know. So, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it's like it's all of these eyes. We all have these different beliefs, and but at the end of the day, at the core of it all, is we all believe there's something greater than us. We all believe that this is just too much of a crazy Big Bang Theory thing that we're here. And all of the things, I mean, I don't believe in coincidence. Do I believe everything happens for a reason? I struggle with that one. I struggle with that one a little bit
Me too.
because sometimes you just don't want to believe that, like, no, some things just don't have meaning.
Right.
There is no reason for it, but that's just part of the process of our evolutionary spiritual journey of like radical acceptance, right? They talk a lot about that in like recovery things, and just like having that faith, having that radical acceptance, and being open. I think that things get really clouded in faith and religion and all of these things when we stop realizing the essential aspect of faith, which is love,
Hmm.
and love for all. Point blank, period. Right. And so
Yeah. Full
very
stop.
passionate about that, especially in the world we're living in today. And I won't get too in deep for that. But so all of that kind of transpired. So I actually embody, I have multiple religious tattoos. I have a cross, I have an I have a ankh, which is the Egyptian cross, and I actually even have a satanic cross, which I've been trying to burn out and brand out my flesh. But at the same time, I'm letting go of the meaning I'm giving it because there was a dark time in my life
Right.
where, after I was gone through all of these things and lost my friend to suicide, was in and out of these these psych wards and doing all these drugs.
Hmm.
I was like, God doesn't answer me. He's not
Right.
answering me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I turned to the dark side for a while and I embodied satanic stuff, which I didn't like crucifix or, I felt more along those principles of just like, don't do harm to others. It has decent principles, it was dark and it was
Yeah.
dark. And I
But
don't,
at the time, that might be
but
what
at
you
the
needed.
time,
That might be at the time, it gave you a sense of peace. It gave you a sense of like understanding. You made a meaning out of it that worked for you. And that's what should be, I think, known.
right. It made the most sense to me at the time
Right.
because all these things happening, it's hard to believe that God's around.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
100%. Yeah. I've felt that.
and so through the ceremonial journeys, I ended up like, it was like my 19th birthday and I was in the Redwood Forest out in California. I'm sure you're aware of these beautiful, grandiose trees and like just
Hmm.
magic.
I know. I've never been there, but I feel like it would be magical. Like
You gotta go.
I'm gonna
You take your
discover
kid
some.
and your wife.
Okay, okay. All right, that's the future. 2026, we're doing it. But
That's that. You can just stroll them around. I went there and I had a spiritual awakening. That was like the biggest one for me where I lost my mind in the Redwood Forest is what I tell people. I lost my mind in the Redwood Forest and I found God. And what I mean by finding God is I found source. I found the light and the love of which source and God or whatever is mastering, minding all of this beautiful evolutionary changes. And I realized that there is more beyond myself and to utilize that and lean on that and have faith in that. And when you have faith in something, And whether or not it's real or not, none of us know. But when you have faith in something, you are able to stop moving in fear, you know?
Yeah. It's so interesting, right? Because we always connect faith with a religion normally, right? And I really do I feel like I just hear what you're saying where I don't think of myself as being any one religion anymore either. I I I don't know. I guess I still struggle if there's like a divine power or not. I think there has to be given with as bad as things are, there's still so many amazing things that pop up for me, but I think I have faith in that. I think I have faith that if I move in life the right way, if I give gratitude to all the amazing things that happen in my life, irregardless of the bad things that happen, if I try to move with love, if I try to, I mean, just that maybe even just love everybody I come in contact with, even if I strongly disagree with them politically or religiously or whatever, if I try to just say, "Hey, I'm gonna love this person," uh, there is this faith in me that life will life will unfold the way it should in this beautiful, wonderful way. And I just, yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I don't know where I'm trying to think of like where my religious awake or I guess faith awakening has come from, but I appreciate that and I appreciate you've had that experience and you were able to verbalize it so well because one, that's a pretty dope place to have it. And two,
Mhm.
like lucky are I mean maybe everybody will experience this at some point in life, but there's so many people in denial about the possibilities of what could be. And also I think it's beautiful to question the religious aspects. I think there's so
Yes.
much
Question
blind
everything. Question everything.
right? Okay, I'm
Not just
yeah,
religion, everything.
okay, right. I'm a big believer in that. I'm a big believer in questioning power sometimes, right? And it's scary, I think, for a lot of people because their whole identity is tied to like this is what it says, this is who I am, because this is what I do. But also, like, there's a big old world out there. There's people who live completely different than you, but I see love in them. I see joy in them. I see this fulfilling life. So how could one for me be better than the other? But I think it's a tricky thing for people. And I think you've experienced it by going to this edge, so to speak, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, well, what's at the bottom, right? It's just a dark room in yourself. There's not, it's easy to try to search for more down there. And you'd hope that people search for more outside themselves without having to be in that dark space. But that's the beauty of being in those darker spaces is what you can transform out of it. What purpose can you take from that pain, right? So to
Yeah.
speak.
I wonder if you feel the same way, which is like for me, it's like I learned so much from this accident, right? My world got flipped upside down and it was so quick that it was just like what happened? But I think one thing I take away is like I hope people can learn the things that I've learned without having to go through what I went through. Is that something that you feel attached to, or do you think people have to go through bad things in a sense? Or like again, that's how we define it, but it's like,
Right.
let's put it in quotes, bad
Yeah.
things to
Yeah.
learn these things?
Yeah, this is a good one because I even like with my boyfriend at this time, I mention these things sometimes he'll talk about little things and I'm like, it builds character, right? That's a big thing I say. Oh, it builds character. I kind of bring humor and lightness to the dark, right? That's kind of my whole skit, right? Is just whatever. But I do hope and want and believe that if people it's hard to get people outside of themselves, right? Because we only have our own little life
Right,
and we're so consumed by our own thoughts, by our own feelings, by what we want. And we kind of forget about like that other people are all walking the same thing right around us. And we're selfish creatures.
right, and doing the same
Just by
thing too, right? I mean,
right.
they're doing the
You know
same
what I
thing.
mean? We're selfish creatures and it's hard to look at all of these things until we hit a dark point where it's like, oh my gosh, I need help that's stronger than anything that I can receive in this ethereal or what's that term? Ethereal
Ethereal
this
plane?
yes, ethereal plane,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But I do believe and I do hope that with what you're doing and with what I'm doing, what so many of us are doing that's faced adversity and trying to bring this awareness that we've learned to society, this macho man society, to learn these things without going through a traumatic plane accident, to go through these things without going through sexual assault and rape and all of these things, to know these true aspects to the other side of life, the other side of the coin without these things. But I do also say, like I said again, I mean, it adds character. It's a character building thing to go through some stuff. I would not be this funny or cool if I didn't go through the things I've been through, I think. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
100%. Yeah. I appreciate that about you, Toots. So you're doing a good job. Yeah.
So it's yes. Good
That's
job.
what I was picking up, but 100%. Yeah. I love it. I just so much of it you said, I just want to like boost it up because I can relate to it and just feel it so deeply. So yeah. Oh man, it's been amazing. It's
Yeah.
just really been amazing to like kind of hear more about the internal dialogue and what you've gone through. But I do have a few questions, as actually before we jump ahead, because there's the three questions I kind of ask everybody, but I just want to know, tell me a little bit about your daughter and what that was like and what it's like now.
Yeah. My daughter is the most beautiful masterpiece. She's every best part of me and then some. And that's all we can want for our children, right? And we want them to be better, smarter, more beautiful, and she saved my life in more ways than one. And I feel a little selfish saying that, but because this is her life, it's about her. And I met a man and made my daughter really quickly into the relationship before I knew that he was an abusive, alcoholic, sex addict in the 9 yards. And it was really hard for a while. And going through having these narratives in my head, thinking like there's not going to be any other man that loves me. So I just have to put up with the things he's doing to me. And it got to a point where my daughter got old enough and I was like, this is not what she should learn about what love looks like. And I was a single mom off and on, most like I'd say 2 years out of the three. But it would be periodic. So we'd be away for 6 months. He left me during pregnancy. So I went through my pregnancy, the last 3 months, the hardest months of my pregnancy alone. I don't have family out in California. And it was really a struggle.
Oh, I can't.
Um,
Oh man, I
but
can't
at the end of the
imagine.
day, it all bloomed into be beautiful. I'm away from that situation. I don't no longer even live there. I'm closer to like support systems. And now my daughter I may be a full custodial single mom, but my daughter gets to have a mom that's not in fight or flight. And that's very important to me. And so now I just see her thriving. I'm actually looking into Montessori schools for her out here, kind of getting her involved. I mean, she's just everything. You just see the innocence and you see the wonder and you see yourself and what life is really about when we're not jaded. And it's not only just rewarding to love her and be her mother, but it's healing to even my inner child. And I wouldn't, this is the best job of my life. And as tired and taxing and stressed out as I get, where I kind of just want to lock myself in a closet for a few days, but I don't have that opportunity. It's real deal homie still. It's not, you don't have to sugarcoat. Parenting is hard, but it's the most rewarding job ever. And I wouldn't trade it for a single thing. So,
It's beautiful. I mean,
yeah.
I hope I think I will, but if I can explain it half as well and with as much heart and emotion as you had there, like I think it's gonna be well worth it. That's beautiful.
I see it already. You will. You've got it written all over you. So,
Thank you. All right. Well, so I kind of mentioned it to you before we were talking offline. There's three questions, I
yeah.
really ask everybody. It's really two, and the last one's kind of for you. But one of the questions I try to ask everybody, well, I think I kind of know the answer actually, kind of based off what you said, but is what in your life currently is giving you the most amount of peace?
Right now, currently, that's giving me the most amount of peace is being out of fight or flight and starting over again in a whole new state, in a whole new city, and meeting this man that is teaching me what secure attachment styles are, and And that's brought me very much a lot of peace right now, as well as my best friend who has now been my biggest support system. I call him my daughter's adopted dad, and he's just my strictly platonic best friend, ride or die. And my daughter calls him dad, and I don't stop her, you know. And so all of these things, having support, I guess to sum it up,
Yeah.
having support finally has brought me the most peace right now.
That makes me wonder. I just put out a video talking about building a team. In your mind, what's the most critical, or what's one step in building the right team?
Transparency. Transparency. Are they showing me who they are, or are they hiding?
Mm,
Is their shield up or down?
hmm.
Right? It's easy to hide behind a shield.
Yeah.
I'm a very open, vulnerable, transparent woman. And if you can match that vibe, if you can match this vibe, then then I know that I have a better idea of the soul you obtain
Hmm.
and the people that you are and what you embody in life.
Hmm.
So I would say transparency and authenticity is a very important part to building a team. Can these people that you're building a community with show up and be transparent about how they feel, what they think, what their beliefs are? And can we hold an open conversation? And can you share yourself authentically with me? Or are you hiding behind a mask?
Wow. That's so good. Yeah, so much, I again, can relate to. I feel like I relate to all of this, but it's like
Yeah, but
I
we're here together for a reason.
yeah, definitely. But I love it. I think that's great advice, and I think it's something people probably don't think about when they build their team of life, right? Whether it is just, not just coworkers, it's friends, it's the family even they surround themselves with. It's like people probably don't think about that, so I really
Yeah,
appreciate it. All right, the
yeah.
second question really is, what's one piece of advice you would give to somebody going through their lowest point?
I mean, as cliche as it sounds, keep going. Don't stop in the flames. Why would you stop there?
Mhm.
Why would you stop where it hurts? Why would you do that? Keep going, you know? And that's so much easier said than done, because I know in some of my really darkest times that just stopping felt like the answer. Sorry.
Y Yeah.
um, but you gotta keep going. You gotta get back on the wagon. You know, one of my big things is I'm writing a book, a self-help book, that I hope to get published by next year. It'll be my second book, but the first one's a trauma-informed poetry book. But
Hell yeah.
and the top quote is, "Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is fear walking." And
Wow.
had I been successful in my multiple endeavors, I wouldn't have been able to feel what I feel right now. So,
Yeah.
that would be what I would have to say, is to just keep going, as hard as that sounds when you have no, vision and sight, no care in the world if you go or stay. Just keep on straddling that horse and riding into the sunset, because you'll see it soon.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for being
yeah.
open and
Oh,
vulnerable.
softie.
Yeah.
I told you I became a mother and I became a softie. Where's my show? I need it again.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. I know exactly that feeling. I feel like I've become such a softie. I wanna give you a hug because I
Yeah.
think it was such a beautiful and honest answer, and you're right. It's funny because it is. I used to hate all the cliche talk, the keep going, pull yourself by your bootstraps one day. And like some of it works, some of it doesn't. But there's sometimes it's just true. Like it's just keep taking another step for me, and you'll know when you take the misstep, you'll know when you're stepping off the path, but you got to keep taking those steps. And I love what you're saying. Like keep walking, even when you're in the flames. Why would you fall there? Why wouldn't you try to get out of it and get yourself to safety? And who knows what's on the other side of safety? So I think that's a beautiful piece of advice. And yeah, it's deeper than just that saying. And I think you perfectly explained that.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Where can people find you? Where can they support you? How do they know when this book is going to drop? Because we're going to have you back on when I get the book and read it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Where can people find you?
Yep. So you can find me on all platforms, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. It's all the same handle. It's Wounds to Wealth. That's also where you'll be able to find the link in my stand store. Particularly in my Instagram, it's easier accessible, but you could also look up lydiarichard.com and that will show you a link to the transformational 6-week transformational program, Wounds to Wealth, that will be launching before my book. I'm hoping to get that up and available for humanity by January 2026. And it is self-led and it involves a whole community. And there will be like weekly coaching calls. I'm still getting all the nicks and crannies, but regardless, that's kind of where you'll be able to find all of that. And you can set up a free consultation to know more about it and try to maybe get involved while pre-launch discount for that whole program right now. But that's where you find me. Wounds, like a band-aid wound, to the number wealth on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. That's where I'll be.
I love it. Yeah. You're already helping so many people, but you've definitely helped me a lot today. You've put so much in perspective. Thank you so much for the honesty, the vulnerability, the genuine you that showed up today. And yeah, it's just an honor to know you and sit down and talk to you. So thank you so much for joining today.
Likewise, brother. Thank you. Seriously, you're doing wonderful things. And thank you for having me be a part of this wonderful podcast.
Huge mahalo to Lydia for sharing her story and light with us today, and to all of you for being a part of this growing community. If Lydia's journey resonated with you, be sure to follow her on Instagram at Wounds to Wealth for more daily wisdom and practical steps to heal and grow. And don't forget to follow at SickBurnPod for behind the scenes content, daily inspiration, and updates on future episodes. As always, take care of yourself, if you can someone else, and keep exploring the bright side of life's darkest moments. Aloha.